So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And it's another victory podcast. I just love doing them. Absolutely love the victory podcasts. And I think this victory podcast for me means an awful lot for, I suppose, the type of game that it was. I'm a stickler, as I mentioned, for old mid-90s kind of games, the shitty pitch that we saw there, and a grinding out 1-0 win against Leeds kind of really brought me back to the early days of the Premier League or the mid-90s style Aston Villa. I suppose, well, late 90s maybe under a John Gregory team where we were well able to defend, and yeah, look, I absolutely adored that game yesterday. Wasn't really much went on, but results are results and victories are victories, and 1-0 wins are as good as 10-0 wins. And I'm joined today by Paddy as always. And Paddy, how are you feeling after that? Because I know that you've professed on quite a lot of times, should I say, your dislike for Leeds. But I can presume that you're beaming ear to ear since Villa won 1-0 yesterday.
Oh, I'm absolutely over the moon. Absolutely beaming is not the word. Yeah, totally agree. Poor game. Dreadful to watch. Not the best performance, but we beat Leeds 1-0, and who cares?
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say, I think not the best performance from Leeds, definitely. They just couldn't get their attacking going. They were carrying a few passes, and I'm pretty impartial about Leeds. To the best point anyway. Obviously, look, no matter what, when we're playing any team, I'm usually roaring and shouting at the screen anyway, but I'm usually impartial to the best point. But I thought that they were carrying a few passengers in their team yesterday, and I thought Villa weren't, and I thought essentially that was the difference. Their midfield was quite poor. Click was poor, Costa was poor, Strike was poor, Tyler Roberts was okay in the first 15-20 minutes, and then was drifted, just went completely out of it. Nakamba absolutely nullified him, and Bamford couldn't get a touch of it. Like that, Patrick Bamford that played there against us yesterday, and the Patrick Bamford that played against us in the previous fixture against Leeds, they were like two completely different players when we were able to limit the amount of ball that went to him. And I'm sure that's something that we'll speak about later when we're talking about the game. But I suppose, Paddy, let's start in chronological order, because otherwise there'll be no structure to this podcast whatsoever.
We'll just talk about how happy we are.
Exactly. I'm battling the elements of some sort of a chest infection at the moment, or a lung infection or something. So I've just taken my medication, so this could go wild different ways in a minute. Let's talk.
You're battling those elements, and I'm battling the elements of a hangover. So being how happy I am, it'd be rude not to do this today.
It's been a while. It's been a while. In fact, since we set up the website, and since we set up the website, a lot of the messages that have come through have been, where are the cans? Why aren't there any more cans going anymore? And you know what, guys, I'm going to be really honest. I'm struggling to keep up with some of the messages there, and they go into a folder, and sometimes I don't see them until a load of them come through at the same time. But I will, and I appreciate every single one of them, and I'm going to read out some of them in due course as well. Actually, I've got one here to hand, and I'm going to read it out before we go any further. It's from Noel Connaughton, and he just says, the podcast will keep me going through the lockdown. He's a Villa lifer in Galway. Another one for our Connacht Lions supporters club. Excellent. We're looking forward to some Villa meetups and games and so on. And Noel leaves his contact details there, which I'm not going to read out in the podcast. Thanks a million, Noel. As always, I absolutely love the interaction. And as I say, guys, I apologize for not reading out an awful lot more. As I say, they were a lot of them were filing into what am I trying to say? Into a folder within my email server that I didn't even know was there. So we will start to read out more during the course of during the course of the podcast as well. So keep them coming. Absolutely love it. Apologies, I can't get back to everybody on them, but it's been fantastic. But that was just a little segue. As I say, this podcast could go any which way. A little segue in the middle of what was going to be our chronological order podcast, and we've already failed. But Paddy, take me back to, I'd say, about 60, the clock, the digital clock on my phone hit about 16:28 or 29. I think they were a small bit ahead of the 16:30 mark when they announced the team. And you saw the team sheet, Paddy, and be honest, and I'm going to be honest as well. What was your initial thoughts on that team?
Well, anyone who saw me on Twitter last night was a blind apology to I even put a picture of me and Dean Smith up on Twitter. I was worried. I looked at it and went, oh no, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. But look, as I said to you when we were texting earlier, that there's a reason me and you don't pick this team. And he sent the team out with a job to do, and by God, they did the job. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't special. Was it the team I'd have picked? No, probably not. But job was done, and job was done well. And hats off, hat tip to Mr. Smith.
Absolutely, absolutely. What were your surprises in the team, Paddy? What were the main surprises for you?
Mainly on the wing. We discussed the possibility of it being a bank of four or whatever in midfield to nullify them. I also, when I obviously I start from the top down, because I know the back four isn't going to change too much. Obviously, we had to look at the right back position this week. But normally I go, Watkins is there, Grealish is there. Obviously, Grealish wasn't there yesterday, but that's normally the chronological order goes from the top down that I look at. So when I saw El Ghazi and Traore, I was a little bit worried. I just didn't think it was the game for both of them. And then trying to decipher who was playing in the middle. Delighted to see Ramsey. Delighted he got his shot even before the match. I was happy with that. But then when I saw we had the two wingers there, I worried about the protection. So I was kind of hoping that it would be Dougie and Nakamba if that was the case. But, as I said, he picks the team. I've so many times doubted him when I looked at a team, and they've just proved me wrong. And it's the days when we go out with a full strength team against a team that we should go and beat, that things go the opposite way. Yeah. So the chips were down. We had to make the two changes. Jack was out, Cash was out, and it just, it was a masterstroke. It worked. It worked exactly the way we would have wanted it to work. We frustrated them. We made it really, really hard for them through the middle. I thought that midfield of Nakamba, McGinn, and Ramsey were excellent throughout. There's very little fault. The previous weeks of giving the ball away and just maybe overdoing it a little bit on the ball didn't happen yesterday. It was simple. It was precise. The passing was spot on. Now, I'm sure you're going to tell me now that the passing stats are off or whatever, but I really don't care. That's the way it felt as I watched it. And so for an hour before kickoff, I was kind of worried. And even straight after kickoff, we nearly conceded an identical goal to what we scored within the first minute. Yeah. So immediately I'm like, oh my God, we're in for 90 minutes of this. And then arise Anwar El Golzi to put me back in my box and to put us on the road to what really is a tremendous 3 points.
Yeah, no, that El Ghazi really put me in my box, because the only text message I sent to you sent me a message saying that you were nervous about the team sheet before it was ever announced. And I actually sent you back a message, in full disclosure here, because I thought that, and I said it on the podcast as well, I thought it was going to be a horses for courses situation. I said, I think El Ghazi could be a shocker like that. And then sure, 5 minutes later, it was, I was viciously trying to delete all remnants of the tweets or of the messages that I sent you. But then I said, no, be a man about it. And and own up to your crappy takes, prior to the match. But look, as I say, fair play to El Ghazi. Every time I suppose he's doubted, and I said this in the Villa View yesterday, every time he's doubted, the chips have fallen in his way. I didn't know that he was with Bielsa at Lille, because I know that Bielsa literally only had a cup of coffee at Lille, like he wasn't there for very long at all, and El Ghazi was there with him, but so like I don't know, as I said before, he's the confidence, is the most confidence based player, should I say, I can think of in the Premier League at this moment in time. I genuinely can't think of a player that if he gets an early goal or he has a couple of shots early on, or maybe beats his player, plays at a better level in the Premier League at the moment. He's night and day. When the ball doesn't get to him and he's starving the possession, and maybe people are getting close to him and he's being dispossessed. Okay, he's shooting off target and stuff like that. That doesn't seem to affect him. But I think if he isn't getting into those positions, because he backs himself to be able to try and get into those positions, but if he can't get into those positions, I don't know what his confidence is like. But early goals for him and early goals for this team are just the best thing. They're like currency for this team, because we've now evolving into a team first of all, El Ghazi is evolving into a player that can score goals. He's got 7 already. That's the joint most goals he's had for Aston Villa. But this team is evolving into a team that can really doggedly, structurally, and confidently hold on to a lead. And I genuinely can't think of a team other than when Gregory had us up near the top of the league in that season when Dion Dublin was purchased, whereby we were confident at holding on to a lead before. Even under O'Neill at times, we would have surrendered a lead, we would have surrendered back into a drawing position. But this team is just really together. It's really structured. It's really together. McGinn was fantastic yesterday, buzzing around the middle of the field. Jacob Ramsey is find of the season for us. And I'm not being hyperbolic about it. I've said it in quick cameos. He's going to be a really good player, as I say. And I know that when I say find of the season, I know that the coaching staff have known about him for a good long while, but he's forming his way into the Premier League seamlessly. He was very good yesterday as well, and all that came together, especially, as I say, with Marvis Nakamba as well, who I've neglected to mention there, had turned this game yesterday into a very structured, honourable, and very decent defensive performance from Aston Villa. Paddy,
I thought
look, one, sorry.
I thought defensively were immense. Take out that what I would call the top 4 of Traore, Ramsey, El Ghazi, and Watkins, and look below that line. To a man, were absolutely immense. Elmo was roasted early on by Rafinha. Is that his name?
Yeah,
Rafinha.
Yeah.
And it was the only time in the whole game that he got at him. I thought we marshaled him very well after that. It was like he fired a warning shot and we just reacted. He got there once, and there's going to be an iconic picture. I don't know whether you've seen it, of him when he was taken off sitting against the advertising hoardings. Yeah. He in his mind, I'm sure, went out and went, I'm going to have a fucking field day against this guy today. And it just never happened for him. We were just immense across the park. When we lost the ball, I thought the 2 boys in the middle, I thought McGinn, but I think that's McGinn's performance of the season for me. And there's probably a couple more that you could say it about. I thought Matty Targett and Nakamba were absolutely brilliant. Nakamba has just, grown into this fantastic player in all aspects of his game. His first touch. I remember giving out about him last season.
He didn't have a first touch. He had a 10th touch.
His second touch was a tackle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way I felt about him last season. But this season, especially in the last, in all this season, because as we know, and the record has continued. He every game he's played, we haven't conceded a goal.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it's absolutely incredible.
and to give you some stats in the Marvellous Nakamba in the first half, and I'm using the first half as well because I think that Leeds were a small bit more, I'm not going to say out of steam, but they were a bit more devoid of ideas in the second half. For a good bit of it, we did a bit of shithousery in the second half. We slowed the game down. We did a bit of fouling, and we will get onto that because look, we need to be we're going to be objective about it as well. We got professional about what we were doing yesterday, and I think we saw it in the second half. But we'll get to that in a moment. But in the first half, Marvellous Nakamba had 15 touches of the ball. 4 of them were interceptions. So you mentioned about passing as well. We had some shocking passing statistics in the first half. We only completed 16 passes. Matty Target had our most amount of passes attempted in 17, and he was only successful with 5 of them. So he had a 30. We didn't pass the ball well in the first half, but we didn't we'd fallen back on our heels, and we were protecting our goal. A lot of it was long balls. A lot of it was
balls that were incomplete.
Yeah, incomplete long balls. A lot of them were trying to get the ball out to El Ghazi as well. So we stuck to our attack down the left philosophy, even without Jack Grealish, which, to be honest with you, is good and bad to see. I can see the positives in it as well, that we're not changing the strategy without Jack Grealish here as well. But I thought that was fantastic. I thought Traore struggled to get on the ball in the game, but then again, if the ball isn't going down his wing, that's what's going to happen. I know himself and El Ghazi swapped, and I think that was more to give El Ghazi a breather, from any attacking aspect that we would have had. They did swap and change a couple of times, but I thought Traore found it difficult to get into the game, and he's found it difficult to get into a couple of games from an attacking point of view. But I think he was really, really good. I think he was really solid in tracking back today, and there was a couple of times where he was breaking his absolute nut to get back there as best he could. So I was really happy with him. And to talk a small little bit about Leeds. Leeds had considerably more passes. They had nearly 200 passes in the first half, but their passing was poor. And, there was a lot of players in there that, even though they were playing the ball around themselves an awful lot, or in front of us a good bit, players like Stuart Dallas, I thought was very poor in the game yesterday. It just didn't suit him. There was kind of a lack of zip from him, and he was my quote unquote irrational fear guy, I think, before the game, because he's got just a brilliant left foot in him, and he can do what he wants with it. I thought Ayling kind of struggled out there too, just passing wise and stuff like that. He had 36 passes in the first half, considering we only had 66 passes in the first half. He had 36 in his own. And of those, he had only 70% of those on target, which, to be honest with you, I know he was trying to maybe trade a couple of balls through to Bamford and so on. But, and I know Nakamba actually dispossessed or intercepted a couple of his passes as well. But that's where they struggled. They struggled to break us down playing in front of us. Helder Costa was poor. I didn't think he was very good. Strike was poor. And as I said, Tyler Roberts, after the first 10-15 minutes, I thought was very ineffectual as well. So they were what they were, I suppose, really. The Leeds, they were... You can see they're struggling with injuries. Calvin Phillips comes in there. Rodrigo comes in there. Maybe they unlock us a small bit more. But what Tyler Roberts couldn't do, he just couldn't do. And Strike was never going to be a ball playing midfielder in the middle of midfield. Click was probably still injured, and maybe was a poor choice to play him. And maybe the industry of somebody like Shackleton wasn't really there at all in the first half. And I'm talking more about the first half, because I think the second half, as I say, I'm not going to look into much stats in the second half, because the second half was really about us being a small bit more professional about it, and fronting up to them and showing a small bit of steel and battle, I think, in that second half. So we went in 1-0 up, obviously, considering we won 1-0 and we scored in the 5th minute. But in the second half...
We didn't really talk about the goal, actually.
Actually, yeah, go for it. Yeah, we forgot all about that.
So we got a corner on the right-hand side, kind of out swinger, fell to Watkins on the edge of the box, took a couple of touches, and my heart is telling me that he was having a shot. I know he said afterwards into one of the local journalists that no, I was crossing the ball for Anwar, as I would have done myself when I was playing football. I'd never admit that I was trying something else. Kind of drops a bit too far ahead of Anwar to go at it with his left foot, so strong enough right foot touch on it, but brings it back into play, and it just drops behind him, and he manages to wrap his foot around it and score. I was very similar to Anwar in that I didn't go jumping anywhere because I was full sure it was offside. Didn't celebrate the goal whatsoever. Even when right up to the tip off, I still didn't celebrate because I was still a bit shocked and numb that we'd actually got away with this. And then when they showed the replay, it was quite obviously onside. You didn't need any lines drawn by some architect in Stockley Park to figure that one out. So look, it was a good goal. He took it well.
Yeah, he'd work to do.
And in fairness to him, I think he 3 shots on target in the first half, and they weren't. You know, we've had shots on target which are just scuttering along the ground. You know, he did test the keeper on a couple of occasions, so fair play to him. I really hope he pushes on from this, and I don't know how many times we've said that about him, but he had a really good December, and then the COVID outbreak really knocked the stuffing out of him. He's got an opportunity now because he's going to start on Wednesday, because there's no way they're going to bring Jack in for Wednesday. Sheffield United are in the shit like at this stage, so why putting someone into coming back from an injury into that kind of battle is beyond me. So he will get another chance on Wednesday, and we spoke about it before. I think he just needs a run in the team. When he got a run in the team, he scored goals. I'd be putting money on him scoring goals on Wednesday as well, because that's that's what his game is about. He just seems to be on fire. His confidence is up, and I'm sure there's people more qualified than me in his ear. We deal with, I've dealt with GAA players and inter-county level here in Ireland. For those listening in the UK, it's our national game. But they work with psychologists all the time. So I've no doubt there's psychologists in Premier League teams. Some of them employ their own. Some of them have them within the club. I know there's actually a couple of them here in Ireland that deal with some Premier League players. So it does happen. But there's obviously got to be someone there. Or if there's not, there needs to be someone there looking after him and keeping his morale up and his spirits up. Because the potential is there. He just needs to do it week in, week out. And it just seems to be that he'll go through a phase of playing very, very well for a few games, and then he'll have a bad game, and he's either bombed out, sitting on the bench, or he'll drop out of the team altogether through injury or whatever. So I hope he gets a prolonged run. I hope it works for him. I really, really do, because you go back and look at all the players we signed last season. They're nearly all coming good again. Ones that we had kind of written off. So if you go back to, like, we let Suso go in the summer, but then again, some of those signings that we were all going, what the hell did we sign him for, is suddenly coming good for us. So a little bit. I just I think a lot of that stuff goes. It's not acknowledged by the mainstream fan or media, that it has happened that the players have come good. So in fairness, I think the only one when we look back at it will be Drinkwater and Samatta.
Yeah. Just on El Ghazi there, you mentioned he getting a run in the team might be the best for him. Look, actually the 2 points you mentioned there, I mentioned in the Villa View yesterday as well. But the El Ghazi. Look, I think that if you're going to play in the left wing for Aston Villa, you just got to know that until Aston Villa receive and accept the bid of 150 million for Jack Grealish, you're not going to be a mainstay in the team. I think somebody like Anwar Ghazi will know that. I think everybody in the team will know that they're playing in the shadow of greatness with a Jack Grealish. But what the story is there with El Ghazi is that it's just about taking his chances now and making sure that he isn't the first guy that's kind of looked at in the aspect of, well, can we raise some funds? If we were to sell El Ghazi for 12, 13 million, would that make the difference if we were trying to fund a big name striker, another big name midfielder? So I suppose really that's kind of what he wants to do, be the next name on the team sheet, because Villa he can't play on the right hand side. I don't know if he's effectual on the right hand side. I haven't done any statistical analysis into it or anything like that. I don't know where his goals have come from. I would imagine a lot of his goals have come from the left hand side. Considering
technically his goal last night came from the right hand side.
Yeah, but it did. Yeah, but
no, there's no reason. at that level, like I know we spoke about before about mixing it up and switching Bertie over to the left and Jack to the right.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason why they can't. There's no reason why El Ghazi can't be the
But
first name on the or the second name on the team sheet up there and play on the right. That's up to him now to prove what he can do.
yeah, oh look, if he comes right, and like if he gets 10 or 11 goals this season, absolutely, why not? Why not? But what I'm saying, I think here is that from a structural point of view, if you're trying to pigeonhole El Ghazi in there, and it kills us from a defensive point of view, because
Yeah.
we sacrifice that defense when Jack is there. Jack is good-ish in defense, but we do sacrifice defense down the left-hand side, and that's why Matty Targett's resurgence is just like it's nearly you'd be looking at him going, what deal with the devil did you make over the summer? Like, so but
I'd have a bit of confidence in him playing in the Ross Barkley role as well. I think that's a possibility.
I called for him to play striker last year as well, but look, we'll see. I don't know. Look, I'm not down in El Ghazi. He got the goal yesterday. I just think that there's no harm. We don't have to start pigeonholing everybody into the team. I suppose is where I'm coming from here. That if we continue to win 1-0, and if Jack Grealish comes in, he starts instead of El Ghazi. I think the juice is worth the squeeze from that point of view. You get as much out of El Ghazi in the short space of time that you possibly can from him, and you thank him and you pay him well for it or whatever. But as I say, Jack Grealish is the heartbeat of the team, so he comes in there, and if it means that we're going to completely upend our system to keep El Ghazi in there, I'm kind of okay with the collateral damage of that. And I'm sorry, that might sound a bit harsh to a lot of people listening. I'd like to be able to shoehorn him in there if it means putting Jack on the right-hand side. Yes, I don't really think we'd be playing if we go to a 4-3-3. I don't think Jack plays in the middle in a Jacob Ramsey role or anything like that, because I just don't think that we would be best utilizing him. But maybe if we play Jack over on the right-hand side and see what comes from that too, and have El Ghazi on the left, yeah, absolutely. But I wouldn't be, and I know it's not news to anybody, and nobody here is suggesting that, but I wouldn't be keeping El Ghazi out of the team, just because, or keeping El Ghazi in the team just because he's performing well, just because of the absolute talisman that Jack Grealish is. And you mentioned about Suso as well, Paddy. Yeah, I've come down on the side that Suso was a guy that was brought in because we needed a complete team overhaul, and he had contacts and he knew what he was getting, and we couldn't go in and buy big names. Yeah. We needed up and coming players at middling teams on the continent, teams that played a certain specific way, and Suso had those contacts. I think also as well, maybe there was, like, looking back at it, one of the bigger things with regards to Suso is that maybe the people were not in the same wavelength with regards to the signings when they were coming in, who they were and if they were needed. And I think maybe Bjorn Engels might have been one of those guys. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. Just the fact that he's been sparsely used, I think, by Dean Smith. And look, you don't want to go breaking up your defensive partnership anyway. So that probably negates that conspiracy theory that I have. But I think with Suso, he probably fulfilled his role. And with Johan Lang, they probably saw the opportunity, especially with Harrison coming in the academy. And I think they probably saw the opportunity to go, right, this guy has a very proven record of bringing in younger players who are hungry. They played in the Champions League and gone on to play for better teams in the Champions League and to an even higher level. So I think that might, once again, Suso could have been a small bit of collateral damage as well, in the fact that he did a job for us. We were ruthless. We saw somebody that we maybe held in higher esteem. We got him in, and unfortunately, Patash was surplus to requirements in that aspect. But fair play to him, as I say, he hasn't really put a misstep, bar Samatta. And I think, look, who knows if Samatta would have came good this year. Yeah. But Samatta, Danny Drinkwater, and Barker Baston, I suppose, were the only ones. But look, as I say, we signed so many players last year, and they were only bit part players anyway, I suppose, realistically, when you think of it in the grander scheme of things, the contributions that they made. So fair play. All those players are doing well, and they did well yesterday. To kind of finish out the Leeds game, and we're going to do a Sheffield United preview as well, just because the two games are coming up in quick succession. But to finish out the Leeds game, how did Matty Targett stay on the field, Paddy? like I know I'm a Villa homer, and I just talked about Target being great, but it's like he did. Look, I'm not saying that Andy Hinchcliffe was correct in anything he said, and we're not going to go into anything about Andy Hinchcliffe because he was just rubbish. But Target did leave a lot on a lot of guys there yesterday,
Yeah, he did.
and I think he was lucky. I think he might have been lucky to stay on the field, but it's just rewards for his great work.
There was a few people lucky to stay on the field, I thought.
Yeah.
And the main one being, who's the guy that lashed out and tripped the guy up to try and get the ball back?
Tyler Roberts.
I guarantee you, if on another day, on 9 times out of 10, that's a red card.
Are you saying if that was done to Bruno Fernandes that's a red card?
Oh, Bruno Fernandes wouldn't have got up, and
it would be a penalty.
If it happened to Llorente, he wouldn't have got back up either, unless the healing hands of Ollie Watkins came out of the end.
Yeah, I thought Watkins threw his weight around nicely. He did. When I say nicely, like there was a couple of times whereby he fronted up to fellas, and he kind of got. He wasn't dirty, but he just rolled his sleeves up, and there was a time when he goes, right, I need to make a smart tackle here, and he'd make a smart tackle. Look, the tackle on Llorente was from behind, but he completely pulled out of it by the time Llorente had gone down. Of course, there was minimal contact.
It was an absolute embarrassment.
It was, and Mings went down. Mings went down at one stage as well, and look, it was just shithousery. That's what I'm going to call it. And look, we came out of it.
There's one thing going down to waste time, and I gave out about Kasper Schmeichel doing it last week.
Yeah,
it's part of the game. I know it's part of the game. It doesn't mean we can't get annoyed at it. So Mings did it a bit yesterday. There was a couple of others that went down, and you knew there was nothing wrong with them. It's fine. You just got to take the sting out of it, especially when you're under the caution, you're 1-0 up. It's only obvious that you will take these things, but I just thought the Llorente one was a blatant and obvious attempt to get a guy yellow carded.
Yeah.
Or worse.
I think it was
the way he rolled around. I actually thought his leg was broken, and next thing, Watkins tries to lift him back up, and he jumps back up.
Squares up to him. Yeah,
like that's Lazarus stuff. Like that's crazy, absolutely crazy.
But
it's not in the spirit of the game. And in fairness to the referee early on, I didn't think he had a particularly great game, but early on he let a lot go because of the state of the pitch. And we haven't even mentioned the fact that it was pathetic. Imagine paying 300 grand for a pitch that you can't even keep your feet and your foot together. It's I reckon we're looking at an injury to Emi Martinez because of it.
Well, he was injured beforehand, I think they said. I think he had a tight groin before the game.
Well, that certainly wouldn't do you any favors when you're overcompensating to make sure you don't fall over when you kick the ball.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think
he'd be fine. I think he'd be
fine. If Jesus, if needs be, leave him out on Wednesday. If ever a game was coming too soon for somebody, and we could get away with it.
Just having international Tom Heaton to bring in,
exactly. Yeah. The cover is there. With regards to the cover, his name escapes me. The third choice goalkeeper yesterday. No, the third choice goalkeeper yesterday was, I think his name is Philip. 17-year-old was.
Oh yes, yeah.
The team yesterday, along with Philogene Badais, who we spoke about during the week.
Yeah,
and Carney Chukwuemeka. The three of them sat in the stand yesterday as extra men. And I think it's admirable that we're bringing them along. And, I really hope we can integrate them into the team. I was delighted to read it today. I think it might have been Ashley Priest who reported on it.
I think it was.
It was worthwhile noting that is the case, that, these guys are there for that reason. And the future is bright. And I know we talk about it an awful lot on this podcast, but I think it's hugely important in an era where you're spending absolute millions on unnecessarily at times on cover when we have that coming through. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Philip Marshall is the goalkeeper. I think that was his name. Philip Marshall.
Philip with an F, isn't it?
Filip. Yeah. And so literally you had three guys there that they could have caused hassle for any commentator. Well, I suppose Marshall wouldn't really have caused much hassle, but the Philip part might have caused hassle. But look, the game was what it was, I think, yesterday, and we'll kind of tie a bow on it there. And I think I'm going to tie a bow on it by saying that whatever about Martinez's groin and his kicking foot and stuff like that, his hands were in imperious fashion yesterday. He catches everything. Oh, he's just so comfortable coming for corners. Even when Melia came up to kind of get in around him.
That was my outburst of the day, that one when Melia came up.
Yeah.
And he caught the ball. And he drops to his knees, and I'm going, get up, we're gonna get a second one here.
Yeah.
And it's just I like that. That's me in the height of being so close to getting 3 points, and I'm going, we could really destroy them here with a breakaway goal. I love seeing a team score like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But look, it was just great. It was great game management. It was another 30 seconds killed by diving to the ground. And there was no danger. Once that play was over, there was no danger of losing the game. But just the killer instinct in me would have loved to see the second goal.
Yeah. Little shout out as well to Morgan Sanson coming on in there in the second half. He did two nice things that I actually did the same thing twice, and I liked the look of it, and it gave me hope that maybe we might see it again against Sheffield United at the weekend. But what he did was something that bar John McGinn, I haven't seen many Aston Villa players do even this whole year. Bar Jack Grealish, is he gave the ball, and he actually he gave the ball to in a quick pass. I think it might have been to Ollie Watkins, and then he actually ran past him for the second ball again. So he literally gave, and it was a give and go, he just shot past it. Now he did it in the middle of the field. It was fine. We didn't lose the ball or anything like that, but what it did was it just dragged players away from Watkins as well. And we don't see that an awful lot, especially in the middle of the field. We've seen it a bit on the wings from Jack Grealish and from Target. Yeah, the overlapping there, but I liked it, and he did it twice, and twice he dragged one, if not two players with him. So look, little things like that from Morgan Sanson finding his way into the team. No one can kind of can give out about Jacob Ramsey being started before him. But look, as I always say, it's a squad game. Having guys like that, like Sanson, Trezeguet, and El Ghazi when Jack Grealish comes back, it's a nice problem to have. And Courtney Howes, as everybody knows, my favorite, my man crush in the team, is back, is on his way back soon as well. And Wesley should be back in full contact training, I think, next week sometime. So look, we're getting the horses back for the run-in. So this is all good stuff. All good stuff indeed. And we're going to transition there, I think, for maybe a bit of a 10-minute chat about Sheffield United. We're recording this just after they've lost 2-0 to Liverpool. I must say, Paddy, Sheffield United were shocking tonight. I like Liverpool were running in second gear. I know people say they defended well in the first half. Sheffield United did, but just they're like Premier League has kind of caught up with them a small bit, and whatever tactics that they were using last year, which was obvious, it was a newer tactic, and it was like the overloads on the outside with the three at the back. It's just been found out, and they don't have the quality there in midfield, and they don't have the quality up front to be able to make something sparkle, I think, in there. I think that they're not going to do a Watford, they're not going to do a Villa from last year and pull the 6 or 7 wins out of the bag.
They're praying for a miracle at this stage. I'll have to admit, I fell asleep during the first half tonight. Not like me. But probably had too many cans last night celebrating beating Leeds. But
got in there again.
Had a big feed then this evening and just kind of lights out watching
drifted
the match.
off.
It was that bad.
Yeah.
So look, they're a team struggling. They've a couple of first choice players missing as well. John Egan is a big loss.
Huge.
Sanderberg would probably start. O'Connell is out. Rodwell is out. Any hope they had.
Jesus, forgot
he was there, didn't you?
Whoa. Yeah, but like even Egan or O'Connell, like the fact they had Phil Jagielka starting centre half at 38, nearly 39 years of age tonight.
Yeah. No, it's sad. It's sad really, because they were a great story last year, which always leaves me with a little bit of angst that we could be the story next year. And I don't think we will, but I just hope we don't do a Sheffield United, as they always said we did at Fulham. It can happen. It can happen that the Arse can fall out of it. I really hope they don't. But look, I feel sorry for Sheffield United because they were a really good side to watch last year.
Mm.
I think they were everybody's second favourite team. I think they were everybody's Aston Villa this year. It was a good news story when the usual dominance was around. They were knocking at the door, and funnily enough, the game against us in Project Restart kind of knocked the stuffing out of them, and their onslaught for Europe just fell apart last season. But they're in trouble. I think they're 15 points adrift at this stage.
Yeah. They're not getting out of it.
They're not getting out of it.
It has to be impossible at this
Yeah.
stage. They just won't. But
Yeah.
yeah, I suppose a lot will, and we're doing this very early, so we're not going to know what the team news really is for Aston Villa or Sheffield United. We're going on the presumption that Jack Grealish is going to be out for Aston Villa, and as we mentioned, we don't think it's really going to be the game to bring him back or rush him back for Sheffield United. Obviously, we mentioned the litany of players that they've got out there just really does play into Aston Villa's hands, especially as we say, if I know Phil Jagielka is a decorated man. He's looked after himself and he's played in nearly every position on the field. But, I'll back Jolly Watkins 10 times out of 10 against Phil Jagielka in a 1-on-1 foot race. And you might find yourself in those. Like, I know they do have Ampadu there as well. I think Ampadu has been a victim of this Sheffield United team where he hasn't performed brilliantly, but he hasn't performed poorly either. And I think that Chelsea are obviously having a look at him and trying to figure things out with their whole structure, everything about it at the moment. And Thomas Tuchel will probably look back at him again and look at bringing him back to Chelsea at some stage. But Ethan Ampadu has been playing in that three at the back system. I'm not quite sure. As I say, great player and everything like that, but he's going to be under pressure. George Baldock took the league by storm last year, just with all the assists and marauding up and down that right hand side as that right wing back. He's been pretty ineffective this year. I still like the look of John Lundstrom in the middle of midfield. He's just a nasty, gets his foot in the ball type of player. Only 27, 28. If the money was right there, and if he was willing to come into Aston Villa as a squad player, as just a complete another stopper, and for some strange reason we lost a midfielder or two to bigger clubs at the end of this season. As a midfield stopper, John Lundstrom is pretty okay. I wouldn't be paying anything near double figures for him though, but like when you look down through their team, they remind me of like an Ireland international squad. I think it's fair to say. And I know it's not just because they've got Stevens and McGoldrick, but their team of hardworking, industrious, endeavour players just lacking a bit of sparkle anywhere, And even they brought on the former child prodigy in Ali Burke. They brought on the evergreen oak of a man, Billy Sharp, as well. And it was, they brought on Billy Sharp. They couldn't take off Ollie McBurney because they couldn't have Sharp and McGoldrick up front because like it's just not going to be any pace there. So when you're chasing a game, that was never going to happen. But Chris Wilder, you can see he's been frustrated since day one this year. Frustrated from day one. I like him. I don't mind him. He talks shite sometimes, but that's fine. I think sure, people make a living out of that. And
I think a lot of managers talk shite, and I used to think he was an asshole, but I've grown to like him over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I do genuinely feel sorry for them. I think it's good to have a team from Sheffield. They're a good footballing city.
Yeah.
It's good to have them in the Premier League. And I actually hoped, we saw them, they beat Man United, they beat West Brom, and it looked like they were on a roll. Then they come and it hasn't been anything major. Like they beat Man U 2-1, they beat West Brom 2-1, they lost 2-1 to Chelsea. So they've been tight enough. They were beaten 3-0 by West Ham, and then 1-0 by Fulham last week, and then 2. There's no. While I'm expecting us to go out and outplay them on Wednesday, there's been no spankings really for them, considering they're the bottom of the league. So they're going to be tough to beat, but I think we will beat them in the end, and I think we will beat them. When I say well, I'm expecting us to score at least 2.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think that we go out against Sheffield United the weekend on Wednesday night, and I think the shackles will be off a small bit. I don't envisage just making many changes to the team. You never know. You might see Kane, Hayden, Kessler get a run it right back. Don't know. Just see what we have there. But then again, you know, bringing in a young fella in there against wily old foxes, we're not going to get caught with pace out there with El Mohammadi anyway. So why not leave the wily old fox in there and see if we want to make a change for the Wolves game and bring in Kessler.
But you know what? It would be no harm to put him in there considering Elmo's age.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to go out again on the weekend. So
yeah,
um,
it's somewhere we could definitely see it. Yeah, it's somewhere we could definitely see a change. And look, Matty Cash is coming close to fitness as well. He's not going to be there Wednesday, but he's coming close.
And there's no
to
point,
fitness,
as you said about Jack. There's no point in rushing him back into that one.
No, absolutely not.
If there's a chance,
and that's not being cocky either. You know,
it's not. No, I think that would be perfectly acceptable for us to say that if there was a chance of them being ready for Wolves, let them be ready for Wolves. Don't throw them back into this.
Yep.
You know, even if we got a good 60 minutes out of Jack against Wolves, it's better than giving him 60 minutes against Sheffield United and him not being able to do a full 90 against Wolves. Yep. So, you know, we've 3 games coming up. Sheff Utd, Wolves and Newcastle.
Yeah.
You know, that run seems great at the moment. Do you know what I mean? And even want to push it out with Spurs then after that. There's no reason why we can't go against anything against Spurs. And then we Fulham. So like this is 5 games that we could go and take a good deal of points out of. And I'm very optimistic that we will.
Yeah. Why not?
I kind of didn't like the fact that I was kind of
optimistic.
That I was stuck on Leeds for the last few weeks. I'm worried about that being on the horizon. And you know, I was kind of blinkered because I really wanted us to beat Leeds because I know so many Leeds fans, and I live at one. My father-in-law is a Leeds fan, so it was really sweet yesterday to win. Not that I slagged him off or anything. He knew. He said nothing.
Yeah, just give that look across the room. That's all it needs to be done.
That's it. So I'm not accepting anything less than 3 points on Wednesday, and I think we can go and beat Wolves, and we definitely can go and beat Newcastle. So that could put us in a really good place.
50. What would that be? Look, if you were to go and get 9 points, that brings us to what? 30. Yeah. Well, we're on 39 points at the moment. That brings us to 48 points.
48 points before the international break. Get a bit of R&R in. Get the guys that aren't out on international duty to get a rest in. Happy days. Although, having looking at Gareth Southgate turning up at every one of our games, I don't know how many we'll have on the break. Because I'm sure he'd love to see what Cash has in his locker, and I'm sure he could be considering Konza as well and possibly Target.
Yeah.
So we could be an empty house come international break.
As I said before, you know, I'm a Villa fan first and foremost, I think, as well. And a lot of people, like, while I do want the players to go well, they can go well in the off season if they want, but I'm pretty okay with them not getting called up between now and the end of the Premier League season. Just because not that I'd begrudge them either. No, don't begrudge it. Don't begrudge it. I just really think we should make it. Yeah. I'd like us to make hay while the sun is shining this year, you know, and maybe expedite again our 5-year plan. Why not? You know, we got into the league quicker than we were supposed to. If we were to get into some sort of European competition quicker than we were supposed to, you know, I think the club has the structure, the capability, and the financial nous to be able to capitalize on that, as opposed for it to be a millstone around the club's neck, even in these COVID times. So, you know, for me, the best way to do that is keep stability, continuity, and cohesion with all the players back in Bodymore Heath, as opposed to flying around the world. So, look, and fuck it, we aren't out of the woods with COVID yet either. You know, I know that people are getting vaccinated and stuff like that, and rates are dropping probably the world over, but you know, it just takes one fella to come to not wash his hands. That's all it takes. And especially if he's in a foreign country, they're essentially outside the bubble. But we're not going to go into the COVID talk again. Yeah. We're nearly out of the woods with it, as I say. Everything is on the up and up with that. Yeah. And
it is worrying that we're going into an international break in a few weeks. And I think
no even questions about it. Like, it's not
we will discuss it when squads are announced and stuff like that, because
we will.
Dragging the likes of Emi Martinez across the world to sit on the bench is not ideal. Maybe Gareth Southgate plans on keeping him a bit closer.
Absolutely. Maybe Konza might be flying out to Portugal.
Maybe.
He can play for Portugal too. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, without siphoning our players off to different nationalities and trying to change the colours of their passports left, right, and centre, we'll not the colours of their passports. So that wasn't the political statement at all. I meant the colour. I should have meant the colours on their passports. Whatever, you know what I mean? Changing their nationalities. Without doing that, we want to keep them in Villa Park and keep this truck on the road. Be selfish about it for ourselves.
Yeah.
But look, obviously, we do wish all the players the best.
Plus, we obviously wish them the best. But plus the fact that we have absolutely no interest in how England are doing, us being Irish and all that. Obviously, we want their players to do well. But I would love them to be getting a break at the end of the month.
I do. I can be honest with you. I will watch an England match if Mings or if there's a Villa player playing there. I will. Sometimes. Well, actually, I have done it since we've gotten into the Premier League for sure. I've kind of worked my evenings around. Yeah, I'm going to watch that England match. I want to see how he plays. I want to see how he goes on. So yeah, it's made me a bit more interested in watching English football. And to be honest with you, I would have watched an awful lot of it anyway. But now I'm actually kind of putting time aside and saying, right, yeah, England are playing tonight. Have the dinner out of the way early so you can sit down and enjoy it and revel in the fact that our players are getting highlighted. So, yeah, look, as I say, it's not Aston Villa related, but it's something to bear in mind that the international break is coming up. I didn't give any prediction. You said we're going to score about we're going to score 2 goals in that game against Sheffield United. I think that's about right. I think a 2-0 victory would be good for Aston Villa. But what I am going to do is I'm going to talk about the caveat here is that every time we've been confident, and not just for this game, we spoke about Sheffield United, Wolves, Newcastle, Spurs, Fulham. Every time we've been confident, we've gone into a run of games like that, we've come a cropper. There has been a spanner in the works. So while I am confident that we might score a goal or that we will score goals against Sheffield United, and nothing they did tonight fills me with any dread at all of playing them. Aston Villa sometimes have a propensity at times to be like in that episode of The Simpsons where Sideshow Bob keeps on stepping on the rake and it keeps on hitting him in the face. They have the propensity to do that from time to time. So I'm just hoping that, we spoke at the start that there's there's a kind of a resolute mental aspect coming into this team, and hopefully it comes in the form of when we're at the front runner as opposed to just when we're the underdogs as well. So this is going to prove it. This is going to prove whether we are or whether we aren't over the next stretch. I think we're going to leave it there, guys. And as I said, this is a rolled up one. There won't be a specific preview. We've done the Sheffield United preview there, and the reason being is because look, I just won't find time in the next few days to be able to pop on. But before I leave, guys, 2 things. The Laker Sportsman a match, Paddy. We never gave one for the Leeds game. Who are we going to give it to? I'm
going to leave this one on you. That's too tough.
I know. I should see. This is usually what happens if I don't mention it, or if I don't mention it, as if I ever remember it. You always remember it before the game, and we always discuss it, and we never mentioned it at all. I was tempted to give it to Anwar El Ghazi because of his goal. I was also tempted to give it to Marvelous Nakamba. Because of he comes in out of the cold, he does a good job. I was tempted to give it to Martinez because he's just so assured and he played back there and he played through a slight niggle as well. But the man I'm going to give the Laker Sportsman a match to is Tyrone Mings. I'm going to give him the Laker Sportsman a match, and the reason being is that while we needed to defend, once again he showed leadership capabilities again back there. He marshaled Bamford really well, even though there was shithousery going in from our side. And I am going to say it, really, a lot of it was from our side. He didn't get involved like he did in the first game. The second he got involved with Bamford at any opportunity, his head was out of the game, and Bamford knocked the hat-trick in. So fair play to Tyrone Mings, captain. And he was captain, was he? Yesterday he was. And a superb performance. So fair play to you, Big Ty, and here's to taking that form into the next game as well. And lastly, just before we go, I just want to give a little shout out. I was contacted by the guys at Henry_the_brave at Henry_the_brave. They're raising money for a 5-year-old kid by the name of Henry. Huge Aston Villa fan. You might have heard Dan speak about it in the Villa View with me yesterday as well, and I'd be delighted to reiterate Dan's words as well. Basically, Henry is suffering from stage 4 neuroblastoma as well. He needs to raise funds to be able to go to New York to finish his treatment as well. They're looking to raise 49,000, and the initiative that they have is that everybody that would be at a home game in Villa Park, all I think it's 42,640 people who could fit into Villa Park. If everybody donated £1, that would get them well on the way. And actually, I think at this point in time, that would actually they would exceed their target as well. And look, a little 5-year-old kid might have a chance of becoming, of living out his life, a full and healthy life, should I say? And look, that's just a fantastic prize to be able to contribute to for anybody. So if you want to follow them at Henry_the_brave, you'll be able to see any details of any of their fundraising aspects there. And I myself will be donating as well, and I would encourage you guys to do so for a Villa mad young fella in Henry as well. So if you have the time, and if you can just spare just a simple £1, you make somebody's life and somebody's family's life so much better. So please keep that in mind.
We're a great little family that way, and hopefully he will reach the goal of what's needed. We'll tweet it out as well, so if people want to follow the link if they're having trouble finding it.
Absolutely, indeed. So guys, that's going to do it for us this evening. Thanks everybody for all your interaction. As I say, I'm going to read out a couple of more messages the fans have sent in over the last few weeks as well, since the website went live. The website is www.fortheloveofpaulmcgrath.com. I didn't write anything up there. I haven't done anything. I haven't done that John McGinn piece. I'm about a quarter of the way through, but this illness has kind of knocked me for 6 over the last 10 days, but I'm going to start writing something maybe during the course of the week and try and get something up this week. If not, bear with me. I'm really enjoying doing a little bit of analysis and trying to put stuff down on paper. It means that I make less mistakes with my analysis like I do when I open my mouth. So it's for me it's an awful lot easier, but as I say, I hope to have something out hopefully during the course of this week, but if not, it might even be closer to the weekend, so bear with me on that one. But yeah, thanks everybody for listening. We surpassed 2,000 followers on Twitter. Thank you very much to every single one of you guys. It really means a lot. Now let's go for 2 million. 2 million followers on Twitter and make a splash as well. And if anybody doesn't know that we have a YouTube channel as well, we're going to start doing a lot more stuff on that. We've been dipping our toes in and out of it just to see what our faces look like in HD. And don't worry, we've got our own we're both flying to Hungary for facelifts ASAP as well for that one once COVID is over. But give us a follow as well, or subscribe on YouTube if you so wish to do so. But thank you so much to everybody for listening to the podcast. Lastly, as I say, you can get Paddy on @VillaPaddy. You can get the podcast here on @LoveMcGrath We've got Sheffield United on the way on Wednesday evening, and I suppose all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.